is Maria. I'm the captain of the USS Stella Pirata, and today joining me are three brand new crew members, Matt, Anastasia, and Sean, and we're going to be talking about the episode, The Pale Moonlight, DS9 episode 19, season 6. So the person who picked this episode was Matt, and so I'll start with you, Matt. Why did you pick this episode?
Well, I've been following Star Trek since TOS. Although I was a little young, even I was a little young when TOS started. When it went into syndication, I was the one in our neighborhood that would run out and scream Star Trek's on, and the street would empty out while everyone would go watch it. As I got older, one of the things that annoyed me about the Star Trek universe was how perfect humans were. We were held up as the ultimate species. We never did anything wrong. And of course, to pardon my French, but the stick up the butt of Starfleet in particular, the preciseness. What I loved about In the Pale Moonlight was Cisco basically had to abandon every one of those principles to get what he wanted. And Garrick, I just thought a combination of the three main actors, Robinson as Garrick, Brooks as Cisco, the guy who played Vreenak, the Romulan ambassador. It just gave three of the best performances. The writing was spot on. The music was perfectly timed. It was very repetitive if you listen to it, but it was just perfectly done for the mood of the show. I mean, just it hit on every cylinder for that episode. And the end result was just so perfect that, when it comes down to it, I can save a couple million lives, and all I have to do is give up my self-respect for a little bit, and I think I can live with that. Just perfect.
Right. Yeah, because it's been a minute since I've watched this episode. So I rewatched the episode, and I was like, wow, Matt, this was a powerful episode. Because it's been a while, and like when I watched it, I watched it a couple times just to, because like there was a lot going on with the different characters, like it was three characters, but like you really got to see the process that Cisco went through writing his personal log of like trying to find some justification and to basically live with his decision.
Yep.
That was very impactful. Anastasia, what's your thoughts on this episode?
Likewise, I love this episode. I've always been a big fan of Garrick, one of my all-time favorite Star Trek characters, probably my favorite in Deep Space Nine as a whole.
Nice.
Back in the day, I was actually part of the Andy Robinson fan club. I interviewed him for his Plain and Simple fanzine magazine back in the day. So I love any episode with Garrick. Any episode with Garrick, usually turns out to be a classic. Top acting from Avery Brooks here, and it's about how far can you push that Starfleet ideal, and where is that breaking point? Because Cisco says he can live with it, but then he deletes his entire personal log. And there's a very interesting novel that follows up on this. I don't know if everyone's aware of it.
No, I don't. What novel?
Una McCormack's Hollow Men, where Cisco and Garrick actually go back to Earth, and he kind of has to, what's happened does get revealed, and Starfleet, has to kind of figure out what they feel about this. And it's I always enjoy Una McCormack's Star Trek novels. She's one of the best writers for the expanded universe, I guess we call it. And I highly recommend it if you can track it down. It's probably easier to find on ebook these days, but use bookstores. You never know what's going to show up. But I think this episode is a classic, and I'm glad we're discussing it.
Oh yes, it's definitely classic. And Sean, what's your thoughts on this episode?
I actually didn't get a chance to check out the whole episode.
Right.
I had some things going on, but I did try to catch like some clips on YouTube to kind of get familiar with it a little bit, and it seemed like it was going to be a very interesting episode. I did like the opening with Cisco. I
Mhm.
thought that it definitely got me hooked and like, oh, I should probably watch this. So sorry,
Oh, that's okay. It's okay.
That's okay. I didn't have a chance to rewatch it, but I've watched Deep Space Nine recently a few times, and this is one that I do go back to a lot. So
Hmm.
going off of that memory, but I didn't get a chance to watch it this past week.
Okay. And my question to anyone who wants to answer, is there any particular scene in this episode that make you go, oh?
I think the one scene that was, if you want to call it impactful, was when Cisco finds out that Renac's been assassinated, and just the expression on his face, and he walks out of the wardroom, walks into Garrick's shop, punches him in the jaw, and they start fighting. And then Garrick says, and that last line from Garrick, and all it cost was one Romulan ambassador, one criminal, and the self-respect of one Starfleet officer. I don't know about you, but I'd call that a bargain. And I'm like, yes.
That was a great.
Andrew Robinson just I agree with Anastasia that every episode he was in, he enhanced. I mean, the character Garrick, the one where they were in the prison and he confronts an Auburn Tain, is just exactly the opposite of everything he's ever been: a liar, a cheat, a spy. And then now he's just a son asking for his father to recognize. Just the guy was phenomenal in the whole series. That character
yeah.
was so well written.
Oh, yes. Anastasia, is there a scene that's in particular that sticks out in your mind?
Well, there's quite many.
Okay.
I've already probably mentioned one of the most iconic, so I'm not sure which one to mention here, but I'm probably going to say the ending always sticks out for me again with Cisco. Just, I can live with it. I can live with it. Computer, delete entire personal log.
Mm-hmm.
I think that says a lot to where Cisco's mindset is, and just, you know, the compromises that he's had to make, but at the same time, you know, the small price to pay for the greater good. What was it that Spock always said? The needs of the many outweigh
the needs of the few. Yes.
This is that, but it's the very dark side of that. So interesting to explore.
Right. And Sean, I know that you didn't rewatch the episode, but like through the clips that you did watch, is there anything that particularly stood up for you?
Actually, that one that Anastasia just mentioned, I thought that was really good. Just the way he just the look on his face is just like he's trying to rationalize himself, like this was something to be good for, like I kind of even felt like he was, even when he posed that question, he was kind of like saying it with sarcasm a little bit too, because it's like, we did it, we got this, and then he's like, yeah, I should be okay with that, right?
You're right.
And it's just like, okay, that must have been one hell of a decision. So,
but we all have to give thanks to Garrick, because his little sneakiness about planting a bomb, just in case his connection did not pan out, which it didn't. I did like that line though from that Romulan. It's a fake. I'm like, go.
Yeah, chew up some scenery.
Memes.
Yeah. But one thing that I liked about this episode, it's not in a particular scene, but it's the process that Cisco went through. It was a rabbit hole. He's first started, just like how he entertained the thought. Then you saw how he gave in on each, going further and further down this rabbit hole, because he wanted that goal of getting the Romulans. And he ultimately, caved, and like did what he had to do. Like first, from, what was it? I'm trying to remember the first thing that he did, that it was the slippery slope. I forget I'm trying to remember. It was like one thing after another. Like then he went to like Bashir to get the gel, then he went to got that criminal out of the Klingons were going to assassinate him. Well, not assassinate him, but
Execute him.
Execute him. So they were going to execute that guy. They were going, he got him out. How he also went to to Bashir and said, you know what, go ahead and write up your what that I asked you for this gel, because it was highly sensitive gel. You can do a lot of bad stuff with it, but he was willing to do that. So that's what I find interesting about this episode, is the slippery slope that Sisko went down to. And he even admitted to saying, like, I should have ended the thought right then and there. I should have stopped, but I didn't, because I wanted to meet this goal, the self-righteous goal of I need to get the Romulans on our side.
And each thing actually was worse and worse. The first was just simply to entertain the idea with Garrick.
Right.
And then to take it to Starfleet and get approval for it. So he had backing from his superiors. And then each thing got worse and worse and worse. And then he had to bribe Quark. I love Quark going, I think we can call this a bribe. it's like,
thank you, Sisko.
Thank
you, Sisko, for reaffirming my faith in the acquisition, the 98th acquisition.
Rule of acquisition. Every man has his price.
Every man has his price.
It just went, and in the end, though, and if just how the series went on from there, he accepted that, and he started to do more things. Nothing that quite that bad, but I think Sisko started to see war's hell, and we've got to do what we got to do, because I won't let our way of life die. I won't let it go under to the Dominion. Just again, Deep Space Nine. I don't know if you saw the documentary What We Left Behind, but it's like they were the bad boys. They were the dark version of TNG, and I've always liked DS9. I've watched it. I've watched every episode multiple times. I still watch it on BBC America every morning. And it just, I think that the writers in Deep Space Nine were given more leeway than any of the other episodes, any of the other series, and they ran with it. They ran with it on a lot of
right.
This is just the perfect example of that.
Right.
This episode.
And so one thing that I did, talking about the writers, I'm going to bounce off that. One thing that I was reading as I was researching this episode is actually the writers originally had this as for Jake, like Jake uncovered. And I really don't think that would have been as impactful, because Ron B. Moore, he told them to like rewrite it, and then they came up with Sisko. And I really honestly don't think it would have been as impactful if it was just Jake like finding like a story or something. I don't know how exactly it was going to be written out, but they had to change it over to Sisko. And I think that was more impactful, because Sisko is such, he's in command.
Yeah.
And you hold the commanding officers in such high respect, and they have to go into this dark path, as we just mentioned about, the dealings that he started off with Garlic, got permission from the Starfleet, that like it was all these justifications that he was able to get to justify this gray area, and then keep going down that road. So, I think it was more impactful with Sisko than Jake. What are your guys' thoughts?
Absolutely.
I don't know who Jake is, unfortunately.
Jake is the son of Sisko.
Yeah.
Oh, then I will have to say that it probably fits better with Sisko. Just going on what you guys are describing, and it definitely would be more impactful instead of like a son of a commanding officer, because then it becomes he was like a teenager, right, during the show.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Then it becomes like a silly teen angst type of television type of episode, and the fact that you guys are discussing like such heavy weighted topics kind of fits more for a commanding officer,
Right.
at least during the late 90s, when, you know, it was probably more beneficial for like leaders or commanders to kind of take that more gray, morally gray path to go down.
And
instead of, like,
in terms of the
Right.
acting, if you just look at it instead of the story, but in terms of the acting, I mean, nothing against Cyril Lofton, but Avery Brooks, nobody in that series holds a candle to Avery Brooks.
All right. Oh
And
yeah.
I just can't imagine anyone bringing the emotion and the seriousness. And then the camera angles were all done perfectly too.
Mhm.
The way, you know, they do a side shot or a front shot, he's talking to the camera, and just the mannerisms that Avery Brooks used, it just exemplified a commander making the hardest decision of his career.
Right.
I think anything else would have just been just another story, someone telling a story.
Mhm.
I did like that, at least the couple of clips I did see where Cisco was talking to the camera, and it definitely seemed like he was trying to convince himself to the audience that he had to make these decisions, you know, these tough decisions, and he's trying to convince him, like, yeah, I did okay, right? You know, like if he didn't ask that question, I don't know if that would have worked as well. I'm not sure. It's kind of tough for me to kind of give my opinion since I literally saw the beginning and the middle, or like the beginning and the end, and like one clip where apparently someone got stabbed. So I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting. So, and the only why I recognize, or I kind of was more interested, is because I recognized the actor behind the heavy makeup, the one that doesn't have eyebrows and a sucked in face. He's I think I don't know who he is, but I think he was kind of like shoot, I'm sorry, but I know that actor just passed away. So
Oh, Odo.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
yeah, that actor just passed away, and I was like, oh yeah, he was in that. I
Yeah.
can't remember what else he was in, but when I saw that scene, so
Right. Right. Anastasia, how about you?
Well, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I know. It's
I definitely think that the switch over from the script originally having Jake to it being Cisco, for all the reasons that have been mentioned, is valid. I think, again, Ronald D. Moore had a lot to do with that. I mean, he's known kind of as the Klingon guy
right.
from his days with Next Gen, but he and everyone on Deep Space Nine contributed so much. And scripts go through a lot of phases, but it really does help. And just a little bit of background for Sean. Yeah, Jake is Cisco's son. He's 14-ish when the show starts. And we do see him grow up throughout the series. And it's kind of interesting with Jake that we see him take a path that is not Starfleet, like Wesley Crusher, that we actually see him go into journalism and become a fiction writer as well. So I do think Jake's journey is interesting, but yes, the war is hell and the road to hell is paved with good intentions are certainly on display here. And I think that, you know, this is a turning point for Cisco, as Matt mentioned. We see that morally gray side and a lot that will affect Cisco as things go on. His conflict certainly with Maquis gets a whole lot darker as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And through that, and just everything that Deep Space Nine brought up, that I think a lot of the producers were very focused on kind of their shiny Voyager over here, which I love Voyager too, but Space Nine remains my personal favorite Trek show. And they did have a lot of leeway because they were kind of seen as the red-haired stepchild in some way.
Right.
And so yeah, they had a lot more creative freedom, and it's honestly some of the most creative freedom that we've seen on Trek up to this point. I haven't followed Discovery past season 1 because of don't have access to CBS, but
Right.
all access. But yeah, it's really interesting. I also think that this constant line of how far can you push, even in the 24th century, versus what is right. I mean, D Space Nine bends the rules a lot, but I'm not sure it ever gets to the breaking point. But if it ever does, this is the closest they ever do come.
Oh, this is pretty dang close.
Yeah. So like I said, this may be the episode where it's known as the darkest of Trek for a lot of reasons. Although I suppose you could make the occasional argument for a couple other Deep Space Nine episodes, but yes. And so it really is a testament to everyone involved, the writers, the directors, the actors. Again, as we said, Andy Robinson elevates that performance of everyone, and just have him and Avery Brooks just in a room acting together. I mean, what more could you want, really, as a Trek fan? It's fabulous.
I don't know if Andrew Robinson's a method actor, but that would be scary to someone to act like that outside of the show. Because I mean, if you think about who he is and what Garrick is, that's pretty freaking terrifying to watch. He's so glib about just. I happened to catch the end of one of the episodes this morning, where he just shoots another Cardassian from the City in Order. He goes, "Shame, I liked him," and then walked away. It's like, you just shot somebody dead, you disintegrated somebody. And it's like, yeah, okay, too bad. The guy he nailed, and in that particular episode, though, that was probably my favorite Garrick episode. He just nailed it to the wall. It was so
good. He is a good character. He really is.
I'm not sure I can choose a favorite. I will say that from what I do know of Andy Robinson, he really did enjoy the moral complexity of Garrick, as opposed to the straight outright evil Garrick that we see in the Mirror Universe episodes.
Right.
So, yeah, he always really enjoyed that. And though I think his personal favorite was still always The Wire. That path. Yeah, he loves this one too.
He was the complete focus of The Wire, so I can understand that being his favorite. It really gave him an opportunity.
Right. Yeah, it was just such a great performance between Sisko and Garrick, And one thing I also wanted to talk about was the trust that the rest of the crew had, because you notice they didn't question, like, look, for the example, Worf, Garrick, Worf, they're not buddies, they're not pals. Okay. And like Sisko commanding, like, shut off all these decks, no access, no nothing. They didn't question, like, why are we doing this? It was just like, okay, this is what he wants. I found that interesting too, like.
Well, of course, Bashir had to question it a little bit.
Yeah, Bashir had to question.
But that's his character. Again, the writers did that really well. The continuity they developed over 6 seasons writing these characters, they didn't take Bashir out of character. I mean, Worf, I can understand. Worf is duty. If a commanding officer tells you to do something, you do it, you don't question it. Bashir has always been, I don't care about commanding officer. I'm a medical doctor. I'll do what I damn well please. And I don't like this because I know what biomimetic gel can do. And so he questioned Sisko, but in the end, yes, sir, I'm going to file a complaint. And you're welcome to do that. Bye. Yeah,
exactly. Just give me what I want. So I'm out of curiosity though, like, was that person also, so did that guy actually able to walk away with his gel? Because I know the guy who wrote the code got killed off by Garrick.
Right.
So was that guy able to get off scotch-free?
The only 2 they mentioned that died were Renak and of course his daughter.
Okay.
And Garrick killed I can't remember the character's name.
I can't remember. The blue
Yeah.
alien guy.
Yeah.
That's his name. The blue alien
Blue
guy.
alien guy.
Yeah. So yeah, so that was, is there any other like moments in the episode that you want to talk about that like were interest or just funny or?
I think another moment I like is from the earlier scene with Cisco, where Cisco, I don't recall exactly what scene it is, but Garrick says, you know, the reason that you came to me is because I can do stuff that you can't. And I think that's, again, very telling for what we were talking about with the rabbit hole, and just he knows what Garrick can do. You know, Cisco would not have been able to do these actions on his own, but as an accessory to all this, he can live with it, maybe.
And I'll pose this question to all three of you. All right, so if Cisco was not able to get the authority from Starfleet in the very beginning, do you think he would have gone down this rabbit hole?
I think he would have. He didn't have a choice. He didn't see, as he put it, he was questioning himself at one point, and he said, and then I went back to my office and there was another of the damn casualty list waiting for me. And that just, okay, I'm going to push on now. I think he would have just kept on moving and risked his career. I think he was that just distraught over what was going on. And he knew, because I think there was an underlying thing, and Anastasia just kind of said it, that he knew Garrick could do it. You know, Garrick, everyone respects Garrick, even though they're terrified of him because of what he is and how he's a psychopath, basically. Think about it, or a sociopath. And I do think he would have gone on with it.
Okay. Sean, Anastasia, do you want to put in your 2 cents?
I agree.
You agree?
I said this a few minutes ago, but I'm not so sure now. I think maybe the path that he took to get there would have been a little different. I hear my knowledge of not having watched it in the past weekend might be to my detriment, but it's hard to say. I think that initial Starfleet permission does give him the confidence that he needs to start down this path, but if he had gotten desperate enough, yes, I think Cisco would have found another way. So I guess yes and no.
Yes and no. I was just wondering about that because like you're getting permission from your higher ups, and that always like kind of like frees your conscience a little bit. It's like, okay, well, I'm following. I got the green light. You know, so that's where I was kind of going with that. You know, like did that green light from his higher ups, you know, kind of like soften you know, to go into that gray dark area. So,
and to bring up that tie-in novel again,
yeah,
I kind of wonder, I mean, if Cisco hadn't done this, would Section 31 have taken this into their own hands in some way?
I thought of that.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. Section 31.
I did not, but yeah, they were the only really big power in the quadrant at that point who hadn't. So I think that's another good, the consequences of that or other repercussions.
Right.
I find it fascinating how the war changes the entire quadrant.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of disappointed that we really didn't get to see Voyager's reaction to all that when they came back. They came back, but there was no time to tell how the place they left had changed by the time they came back. And yeah, but the entire power structure of the Alpha Quadrant just flipped on its head through that war.
Yeah, exactly. I want to thank Matt, Anastasia, and Sean for joining me today to talk about The Pale Moonlight. I had a great time, and please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Stella Pirata, and we will see you guys later. Trek on.
Where's me rum?